All right, good Thursday morning to you, everybody. This is the All About Nothing podcast, kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber. You can find me at Barrett Gruber across all social media. I'm the host of the All About Nothing podcast with Zach King. This is Mr. Bill Kimler. He is followed across all of social media as Political Bill SC and host of Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jamil Brooks. You can follow him again at Political Bill SC. We are here Thursday morning, 2 days away from the weekend. How are
Good
you,
morning,
Bill?
Mr. Barrett.
It's I feel like Tuesday morning is a little easier than Thursday morning.
I disagree.
I didn't want to get out of bed this morning.
See, for me, when I get 4 days in a row of sleeping in, you got sirens behind you. What's those lights behind your head?
It's a new addition for recording. I put up
That's
some
not
Govee lights.
distracting.
I put up some lights. They're orange and green,
and they're flashing,
the
right?
show. Yeah, it's a marquee sort of thing.
I thought maybe you were about to have a visit from the law. Maybe this is the day you get deported.
You let me know. See if I there
Send
we go.
you back to Atlanta where you came from.
Oh well, that would probably be one of my greatest fears. That is something I have zero interest in doing. Bill and I recorded last night. Not this Bill, another Bill Fry.
Which is just, I can't wait for that to be done. Whenever I hear you say Bill, I get excited on the podcast. I go, oh, he's talking to Bill Fry. Okay, that guy. Gotcha.
You know what I think would be fun is that I take a week off and you and Bill host an episode of the All About Nothing podcast, and it'll just be the Bill show. Bill and Bill. It's just an idea.
No, we'll pass. However, it could be fun to swap shows where Jamil and I do your show and you and Zach could do our show, and
that would be interesting.
Just to try to live each other's episodes, see what it's like. Do a Freaky Friday swap.
You do have a very specific format to the show that that I think I would do okay with. I don't. And think
you have
I'd
absolutely no format whatsoever. So
do not.
We could, and I would not prepare. That would be the fun part. It would be completely spontaneous, and to see how hard that is.
Literally nothing is in the title, so it's all nothing. That's the whole idea. So I woke up this morning to some not great news. I don't know if you've seen this already, but there was a shooting in Washington, D.C. last night outside of the Jewish Museum. The suspect is actually already in custody. 2 dead embassy employees. They go by the names of, I just had it, Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. And then the suspect is Elias Rodriguez. Apparently, when he was taken into custody, he was chanting "Free, Free Palestine." And that to me is a little alarming. That's another one of those situations where you have an opinion, or you want to express your desire that you want to express your opinion that Palestine is under the siege, or they're under the thumb of
they're on the verge of being eliminated, wiped off the planet. To be quite frank.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a less effective way to get that message across than to slaughter a couple of innocents yourself in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That is absolutely not the way to go about trying to show that you're on the side of the people that are being oppressed the most. And but the suspect is in custody. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has said the most obvious thing, which is that violence and hate in our city will not be tolerated. I don't. At least I didn't see thoughts and prayers. That's that one to me has thoughts and prayers has become the most offensive thing when there's, and we have school shootings every single day, whether there's a victim or not, or multiple victims or not. There are school shootings that are taking place every single day, and so that is a constant issue that parents are having to deal with their children in public school. And the fact that the first defense on state TV is to say, well, we can't make this political. We can't immediately make this political. We can make it political later, but not now. And then we never do. Like, it never comes back around. We are like goldfish when it comes to shootings.
So in the case of this quote unquote activist, right? This was not a Palestinian himself, if I'm not mistaken. Right? He's just caught up in the movement of the thing, and then he has become mentally so obsessed with the devastation that's occurring that he felt it incumbent upon him to inflict devastation himself as a lesson.
Yeah.
And that's just how twisted the mind got. It's the same minds that pull up a gallows and say hang Mike Pence over, conducting an election, right? It's the same extreme mentality that you can't let that action drive the focus on the issue at hand. There's still the issue, and you can't diminish it because of the action of the extreme individual. So you really have to work hard to separate the two. This was just a cold-blooded killer, and his motivations are warped, but that should not separate out, or should not be mingled with the cause itself and say, see, anybody who protests is capable of murder. That is not the case. Just like any Republican is not necessarily painted with the brush of, hey, you're about to invade a Capitol building and go try to kill Nancy Pelosi or right. murder her husband in their home, right? So there's going to be extremists, and you can't whitewash an entire movement or belief because of that extremist.
Agreed. Suspect's name is Elias Rodriguez. Traveled all the way from Chicago, Illinois, to commit this act. And again, I am constantly disappointed when I see anything about violence being involved in politics. I think it's the least effective place or it's the least effective way of expressing yourself is violence in politics. Because
what if you stage violence? So you make it seem like violence occurred, but it didn't. And I'll give the example of the supposed assassination attempt on the president, right? In the months after that, I would just tune out any conspiracy theory. I'm like, no, I am not that type. I am not going to go down that rabbit hole. I've seen the QAnon go down that rabbit holes, and it is not healthy. It's not helpful. But shit, Barrett, the more I'm seeing about this, and legit seeing, I'm not talking about, hey, I saw a video on YouTube. It's true reporting, true Getty's images, true everything. And the fact that there's been absolute silence since about the killer. Have you heard a single article or seen a single article about the supposed shooter?
No.
Right?
No.
Nothing. Nothing.
In these situations,
every other assassinator in the past has had entire magazines and books written about them within months. Yep. Here, nothing.
There is no documentary that's been published on Netflix or Hulu or HBO Max. We haven't had any sort of like 48-hour mystery that's gone into this. Like,
and I'll tell you what did it for me. I'm kidding you not. I'm watching this TV series called Dark Side of the 90s. So it's a documentary. Vice TV, lasted 3 seasons, and they just go into a different topic about the era of the 90s and kind of the seedier side. So one episode was about the rise and fall of Mike Tyson. And then, of course, they focused on his fight with, I think it was Evander Holyfield, where Tyson bit his ear, right? And they actually zoomed in on the chunk of Holyfield's ear on the canvas. Right. And to this day, you can see the big dent on Holyfield's ear.
Yes, you can.
And I went, okay, so ears don't grow back after all.
No,
and yet like you look at an image of Trump's ear and it is regenerated. So either he is a space lizard capable of regenerating body parts, or that effing thing was staged.
Yeah.
And I'm really leaning towards a cover up now that you look at the pictures and you see the supposed blood splatter on his face that don't resemble any blood splatter pattern. They were like nice little thin streaks as if you had busted a capsule, right?
Yep.
So I didn't mean to go into this turn, but I am now more than 50% leaning towards that whole thing was staged.
When it happened, I was watching a baseball game, and then I got a news alert saying an assassination attempt on President Trump. And immediately, the first thing that went in my head, it goes, there's no way that's real. That was the first thought I had. So I turned to the coverage of what was going on, and they kept replaying the footage over and over. And I'm watching it, and then they start to then they say that the suspect's already down, that the suspect was basically just sawed apart by the barrage of bullets, which ultimately doesn't make any sense to me because I've seen people take shots before. I was in Ybor City in Tampa Bay one time. We were down there for a wedding, and we were in Ybor City out at a bar or whatnot. We came out, and shots started being fired, and across the space of, I don't know, 70, 80 feet, I watched someone get shot twice in the chest. Didn't see who shot him. We were, we were all, we all had to stick around as witnesses to the police. But when I watched the footage of Trump turn his ear and then drop to the ground the way he did, the fact that
he didn't fall to the ground. I think it was just a duck, right?
Yeah, it was kind of,
it wasn't like he was knocked over.
But then, the Secret Service in no way, shape, or form would ever allow for the president to ever, in that situation, especially if already taken fire, the likelihood that usually when there's a situation like this, there's almost, based on every single documentary I've watched, in a situation where there is a single shooter, there is almost always at least someone else. Modern times, because things have to be planned and this sort of thing. So the fact that they let him stand up and crawl his way through these Secret Service agents. By the way, again, I've said this before, those specific Secret Service agents have not been identified, and not for their safety, but people don't recognize who they are. They don't see those Secret Service agents on staff.
There was a video released that kind of zoomed in behind the podium after he had ducked and the Secret Service came around, and you could see Trump reaching in to pull out the script and point out to them, this is what you're supposed to do. I'm supposed to get up, and he's like pointing to his line. He's like, lines. And then he tucks the script away, then stands up and does his little pose. You can see that.
The optics of the whole event were basically perfect for him, which, it's believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. And it just worked out so well to his benefit that, and if he wanted to come out and say, to acknowledge, yeah, I get it, people don't think it's real, here is the medical report, he could do that. He went to a hospital, but you're right, his ear looks exactly the same as it did.
The same guy that demanded a birth certificate from President Obama to prove something will not release his own proof of anything that could easily quell anything. Won't do it because it doesn't exist.
I don't think it does. I'm right there with you. I'm probably leaning more towards it have been staged.
I mean, what's the last assassination attempt in my lifetime, I think, was Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
And John Hinckley Jr.
Yep.
And the fact that I still know that guy's name 40 years later, and that he was in the news for, 10 years.
He was in love with Jodie Foster, right?
We know that about him. We know so much about that.
We know
legit
his motive.
Assassin. And this guy, I don't know this guy's name. Who was the guy that tried to assassinate Trump? You know his name?
22-year-old kid, right? 22, 23-year-old kid.
Don't know anything about him.
The only thing I can say that we do know is that his parents were MAGA, like, or at least his father was, because they did. There was a local news team that went to his home, and they found what they found on the yard was a bunch of Trump signs. So his at least someone in his family who had control over the yard that was willing to mow in between those signs. They were very supportive of Donald Trump, enough to buy like more than a handful of signs. So that's the most we know. I think they know his address and things like that. They immediately tried to tie him to. They knew his name within hours, but that was it. Like, that was as far as it went. And the fact that we haven't, like, ultimately that's what I want. I need Netflix or Showtime to produce some sort of a documentary on the whole thing. But I've watched YouTube videos of people trying to imitate using ballistics on human ballistic gel, as far as like the shape of the ear and everything like that. And the bullet, there is no point there's no amount of space on the ear that the bullet could traverse near or through that doesn't cause catastrophic damage and basically obliterate the ear because of the cartilage in there and the way that cartilage takes an impact. They've done all the science, and there's no way that a bullet skimmed past his ear and doesn't just destroy
This is a
most of it.
hard conversation for me to have because it very much sounds like we're talking to a 9/11 truther. That's what this sounds like. Well, scientists have studied, and then there's no way that the plane could have hit the building and caused this, and the temperature of steel is that, and and nonsense. And
Yeah.
that's what this sounds like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yet this one seems legit.
I do love the 9/11 truther conversations, because then I get to explain thermodynamics to people. and how
you make them regret even bringing it up.
Oh, for sure. Well, I make them regret having their opinion. That is 100%. I love that.
I have an 8th grade stepdaughter, and we were out to dinner, and she's letting me know that one of their assignments in a class was to give a report about a conspiracy theory. Like the teacher assigned them, says, go find a conspiracy theory, do a 10-minute presentation about it, PowerPoint, whatever it is. And you know what her conspiracy theory was, I think, that she had picked?
What's that?
The Super Bowl between the Harbaugh brothers. It was the Ravens and 49ers. And this was in New Orleans, where the power went out in the middle of the game, if you remember.
I do.
Okay, so the power went out during the Super Bowl. The Ravens were clobbering the 49ers. They were totally dominating. Power goes out, and play stops for about a half hour while they get electricity back on at the stadium. And then the Niners start a comeback. And afterwards, and the Ravens ended up winning, right? So it was still a Ravens Super Bowl victory. Then afterwards, what was his name? Ray Lewis, I think was his name, played for the Ravens, real tough defender.
Yeah.
He starts a conspiracy thing. Man, all I'm saying is that we were on a roll. Then somehow the power goes out, and somehow the Niners start a comeback. And that's because that's what the NFL wanted. So here's one clearly fringe player here in the Ravens that you shouldn't take seriously. Wasn't he accused of murder or beating up women at some point or something like that?
He was, and I don't want to be too wrong about this, but there was definitely either a death or potentially at least some sort of domestic abuse.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? If we're wrong, I'll give you Barrett's home address. You can serve him papers. This is his show. I'm just a guest, so I'm not liable for anything. I've got immunity. But anyhow, he starts this rumor, and now it actually got, I think, its own Wikipedia page. It's called the Super Bowl conspiracy theory that the NFL scripted that power outage.
I'm one of the people that believes that there is at least some sort of script to the NFL season in some way. Now, I don't believe it full on, but I enjoy hearing people like they'll do commercials at the beginning of the season with Keegan-Michael Key, where he's the guy that's writing the script, and he's got all the players around the table, and I think one of them, like Julio Jones was like, wait, so in the 7th game, 15th minute or the 3rd minute of the 2nd quarter, I have to go down with an ankle injury? And he's like, yes, and make it as dramatic as possible. So, it's funny that at least the NFL is playing into it, but their acknowledgement and playing into it is the part that makes me a little concerned that there might, because
that's part of the conspiracy. It's to make you think there isn't a conspiracy by making fun of the conspiracy that's there.
Right. I get it.
Exactly. Makes all the sense in the world.
Football is the only one. Football is the one that I believe out of all of the sports is the one that has the least number of variables compared to other sports that you could potentially have some sort of a script to. I mean, besides boxing.
I don't understand what you mean by the least number of variables.
Well, because a player.
I mean, look at hockey. Hockey's got a fixed number of players, a little rink, one puck, back and forth.
The ice itself is a variable that you know.
Well, football, you can have snow, rain, sleet. You're playing in all weather types that you can't control.
But if NASA's controlling the weather, couldn't you have? Look,
you know what? It's talk like that that's going to skyrocket this podcast to highest ratings. You know, we may be onto something. We're hitting into Joe Rogan territory now.
But I mean, if you think about it, the number of players on the field, you've got 22 players on the field. If they all know what role they're supposed to play, whether the quarterback hits his target or not, the parts of the game that you could potentially have an effect on that actually have an effect on the outcome, I just think the probabilities are there. But I'm not saying that it is. I still enjoy football regardless of a script or not.
So. I don't understand how you enjoy football as a Falcons fan, but you do you. You do you.
So, yeah, look, Bill Kimler, for those of you watching and listening, is still grieving over the Eagles' loss to the Falcons last year.
Ruined the season.
Mediocre team. Ruined it.
Line up all the Lombardi trophies you want, on the shelves. That one loss to the Falcons. That
it was defining.
Unforgivable.
It was defining.
It really was.
Eagles this year, as far as I'm concerned, are probably the most likely in the NFC to well,
the big news around there is that the owners got together and there was an attempt to ban the tush push, and that ban was overruled. They needed like 24 votes out of the teams, and they only got 22.
I mean,
so the tush push is still there.
Yeah. Why would you take the tush push out?
I hope the Eagles, for their opening drive, just tush push their way down the entire field. Like, I hope it takes 72 plays in 37 minutes to get from one end of the field to the other, just from tush pushes and penalties, and take all the time in the world and timeouts. And I hope they put a message out there and say, there.
For the 19th time in a row, Jalen Hurts is lined up behind center again. Oh, we're doing another quarterback sneak. I would enjoy that game. And you know what? I think that they would probably, if they're playing, Carolina Panthers or something like that. I did see a theory that the Carolina Panthers are the ones to go to the World Series.
World Series, yeah, they're so good.
To go to the Super Bowl this year, because in every season that they made it to the Super Bowl, it was following a year where Ohio State won the championship, and they ended their previous season at under 500. So
wait a minute, Ohio State's championship win has been kind of undone, hasn't it? Didn't it get removed from the books?
When you have someone outside the team from the state of Ohio throw the trophy on the ground,
right?
Yes.
Didn't that unleash all the spirits of victory, and now they're gone, and you can't get that back? And
that's right.
They essentially have been wiped from the books.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's there is a statistical anomaly that has in.
Wait a minute. How many times have the Panthers been to the Super Bowl?
I think twice.
Wasn't it just once?
Well, 2003 and then 2015, I think. Because Jake Delhomme and then the other guy, the last guy,
Cam Newton. Did he make it to the Super Bowl with them? I thought they only made it once. I don't remember it twice, but I could be wrong.
This is easily checkable.
Yeah, if only we had a means to quickly look something up, but the library's not open yet, so sadly we have no way to know.
We'll just
if only they would invent something that had instantly accessible factual knowledge 24/7.
I was exactly correct. 2003 and 2015 Super Bowls.
How about that?
2003 versus the Patriots, and then 2015 versus the Broncos. So
wow, I don't remember that Super Bowl at all. I remember the first one, so I knew that one because the Panthers were a relatively new team, and it was like good for them making it to the Super Bowl. But
yeah,
I don't recall the 2015 Broncos.
Yeah,
they were in the Super Bowl. I don't remember that at all.
Well, they lost both. It's similar. I think the Falcons.
Who was the quarterback of the Broncos that won that Super Bowl?
Eli Manning. I'm pretty sure it was Eli Manning that year. That may have been the one that he won.
Eli Manning was on the Giants. He retired.
No, not Eli. Peyton. Sorry. You know what? Here, yeah.
Okay, Peyton.
Somebody in the comments corrected me.
Yes. I do remember Peyton Manning winning the Super Bowl twice, but I thought Peyton Manning went to the Saints.
No, No. Yeah. So Tom Brady in 2003, and then Peyton in 2015. I'm really glad that David Becker out here is making comments on my TikTok, and I happen to see it. Thank you, David. Appreciate the information there.
All right,
Yeah,
that one you saw. Okay,
that one I saw. My
that one
eyes
you
were
saw.
drew right to it. Eli did win a Super Bowl with the Giants, which
yeah, he won 2 of them with the Giants.
Shocking.
Yes,
the Giants.
that is one of the most unathletic looking dudes ever. I mean, you look at him and you're like, yeah, that's the guy. That's the kid you beat up. He doesn't look very athletic.
And you don't believe there's a script when Eli Manning makes it to the Super Bowl? Like, how is that possible?
It wasn't a very good script, but okay.
I don't disagree. Hey, guess what? Our next episode of this on Tuesday, I will be running you tired on asking people to vote for the All About Nothing podcast in the Best of Columbia 2025 from the Free Times, Post and Courier Free Times.
I wouldn't bother. It's all scripted. The winner's already been chosen. I've seen it. The evidence is all there.
I can't deny that. Because sometimes it's not who you know, it's how much money you pay into advertising.
It's a podcast featuring 2 podiatrists this time. They're going to win it all. Foot doctors, and that's the best that Columbia has to offer. Oh well.
Here's the worst part about that is that when I worked in Medicare, I worked in provider services. So I would take phone calls from doctors' offices that were calling Medicare to find out why they hadn't been paid for their service, why they had billed Medicare for seeing a patient and had not been paid. And we had one podiatrist office out in Myrtle Beach that would call twice a week to ask where his payments were. And because of the interactions that I had with him over the course of my time in that provider services office, it's basically customer service. I had lost all respect for podiatrists to the point where one of the calls that I had a QA, that I had a quality assurance measurement graded against, was one with this doctor from Myrtle Beach, where he called up and I said, I did my spiel. I said, Medicare customer service, this is Barrett. How can I help you? And immediately the doctor said, "Where's my effing money?" And I said, "Oh, Dr. So-and-so, it's good to hear from you. How can I help you?" And I basically, like, the standard at which I held a podiatrist, which is I acknowledge completely, your feet are extremely important, and a podiatrist doesn't just like look at them. It's absolutely a necessary specialty. But because of him, he in one comment said to me, "I am a doctor, I should get paid." I go, "Well, you're a podiatrist."
Oh. Barrett went low. You can only take so much abuse, man.
Yeah.
Before you snap. I can see it.
Yeah.
You went all Samuel L. Jackson on him, didn't you?
He never recovered. He had to go see a therapist, which is a legitimate science.
And now you have that survey on your permanent record that will haunt you until your dying day.
Here's the funniest part about that call being QA'd for my record was that in the comments she acknowledged that I was Kurt, but she didn't write Kurt. The R turned into an N. And when I saw that, 100%, that's exactly what happened. When I saw what she had written into the survey, I immediately went to my manager. I was like, "Can she say this?"
Well, she can. She's a woman. They're allowed to use that word. We're not.
I was like, and I acknowledged. I said, we listened to the recording, and
Barrett, I mean this both accurately and tongue in cheek. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, that's it. All right. We are going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday. You can follow Bill here, Political Bill SC. Me, I am at Barrett Gruber. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern. We do this for our entertainment. It's not for you. We're here for us.
True. I get no feedback whatsoever. So this is just a chance for me to talk to my buddy Barrett.
And ultimately, I think that's what a lot of podcasts are, is just people talking to each other with nothing to say.
And for the George Soros paycheck, that's very helpful as well.
I'm looking forward to my quarterly earnings this year. Because we're approaching the end of the second quarter. Fantastic.
Love that guy.
And gonna live forever. Like there's no way that he doesn't enter the vault with. There's no way he doesn't enter the vault with Walt Disney as just the frozen head, and
Well, that's a topic for next Tuesday, I think.
There we go. All right,
let's pick it up from there.
Until then, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself.